Arupa Mahatma Chitananda Sara Avidya Viruddham Vivekam Taru Tamasin Kritamta Taruni Prakasham Ajata Nitanda Suchaitanyamegu Ajata Nitanda Suchaitanyamegu.
Now we move on to session 1, handled by Dr. Shiba Abraham. The theme of this session is sustainability implications of changing land usage dynamics in Kerala's paddy fields. This session will highlight on changing land use dynamics in Kerala's paddy fields driven by urbanization and shifting economic priorities have led to a decline in traditional rice cultivation and associated ecosystem services. Before we proceed further, I would like to request all the participants to kindly ensure that your microphones are kept on mute. Use the chat box for queries and comments. Our technical team will stand by on to assist in case of any difficulty. Next, to formally commence today's program, I now invite Mr. Sriraj S., Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science, to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, Ashim sir. A warm welcome to everyone to this section on sustainability implications of changing land use dynamics in Kerala paddy fields. We are pleased to have with us Dr. Shiba Abraham, Assistant Professor of Economics at Mar Athanasius College, Kodamangalam. With over 20 years of teaching experience and expertise in agriculture, economic, and sustainable development. She is an ideal resource person for today's section. We are honored to have her with us and look forward to her valuable insights. Now I invite Dr. Shiba Abraham to take over the section. Up to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Sriraj sir, for the warm welcome. Now I request Dr. Shiba Abraham to kindly take over the session.
Please, mic. Please on your mic. We can't hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes. Yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful welcome. And I would like to thank the team of Shandagiri College for inviting me to deliver a session on this fifth day faculty development program. And first of all, I would like to give a brief picture of our state, Kerala, as being the participants are from different parts of India. Kerala is known for, as its name is, for God's own country. And it is a land of coconut. That means Kerala. Kerala means land of coconut. That means land of Kera. And Kera means coconut. And that land of coconut, besides large number of coconut trees, there are very enchanting grazing lands, vast area of paddy fields. There are certain water logging areas, huge mountains, very beautiful mountains, and a moderate climate. And because of these peculiarities, Kerala is known for the foreigners, and also we are self-declared as the Keralites, the God's own country. And we know that the God's own country is known by these peculiarities, and Kerala has a wide area of forest and also wide area of paddy fields. And we know that Kerala, there are rice bowls. There are 2 districts are termed as rice bowls, especially the area Palakkad and also Kuttanad. But we know that when we come to the basic factors of production, we all know the basic factors of production are land, labor, capital, and organization. And among these 4 factors of production, one of the basic factors of production is termed as land. Because land is a natural resource. And this natural resource are inherited by the human beings. And we know that the main source for the necessities or our basic necessities are food, shelter, and clothing. And for these basic necessities, the land is very much needed for food also, for shelter, and also clothing clothing requirements also, we need land. And for the subsistence living, agriculture is an important source. And from the time immemorial, occupation, the basic occupation or the important occupation of man is agriculture. And in our scenario also, being a developing economy or before independence, in India as a whole, the main problem faced by our economy is lack of food materials. We know that at the time of independence, India is facing with acute poverty. There is the problem of malnutrition. Severe child deaths are there. And in order to overcome these problems, at the time of independence, our leaders give importance to eradicate the poverty and also other basic problems. And for eradicating poverty, we have to give utmost importance to the agricultural sector. It is one of the basic sector, basic productive activities. When we analyze the productive sectors in the economy, there are agricultural sector or the primary sector, then comes the secondary sector or the industrial sector, then the tertiary sector or termed as service sector. For the development of other sectors, the primary sector plays an important role. And at the time of independence, our national leaders, for eradicating poverty, they give importance to the agricultural sector. And with the introduction of economic planning, we all know that 5-year plans are implemented. And in the first 5-year plans, the utmost importance is given to the agricultural sector. And we know that almost this first 5-year plan is almost a success. Then the second 5-year plan, again, it gives to importance to industrial sector. And again, in the third 5-year plan, emphasis is given to the agricultural sector. And we know that the different 5-year plans given importance to different sectors. And I leave from that area. And we know that in the earlier days, this population was limited. When we analyze the theory of demographic transition, in economics, there is a theory that is the theory of demographic transition. And that theory of demographic transition states that The economy or every economy passes through different stages. The important stages, there are three important stages. And in the first stage, both the birth rate and the death rate are very high. The reason is that because of lack of educational facilities, health facilities, etc., the death rate are very high. We know that there are so many contagious diseases are there, and that contagious diseases give rise to the increasing number of death rate. And also the lack of education facilities. There is lack of knowledge about the control of birth rate or birth control devices. There is lack of knowledge of birth control devices. The number of birth is also increasing. But the problem is that the health facilities on the other side is not so improved, and the birth rate is increasing and the death rate is increasing, and the result is that there is low rate of population. But as the economy advances, there is education, the education facilities improve, then what happens is that the people are getting more educated, and also the health facilities are also improved, and the net result is that the death rate began to decline. On the one side, the birth rate is increasing, and on the other side, the death rate is declined. And the net result is there is increase in the number of population. And that stage is termed as the population explosion stage. And the first stage is considered as an important feature of a developing economy. Underdeveloped economy. First stage is a characteristic feature of an underdeveloped economy. And the second stage is considered as a characteristic feature of a developing economy. And in the third stage, when we analyze the third stage, as a result of the increasing educational attainment, and also the health sector is also being better advanced, and both the birth rate and the death rate began to decline. And also the result is the rate of growth of population is also began to decline. So in the first stage and in the third stage of the theory of demographic transition, the rate of growth of population is less. First stage, the underdeveloped economy also that situation emerges. In the developed economy also the situation emerges. But there are entirely different scenarios. But in the second stage, the population is increasing at an increasing rate. That means there is an increasing population pressure. We all know that India is passing through the second stage of the theory of demographic transition. That means population is increasing at an increasing rate. And in the Kerala situation also, when we analyze the Kerala model of economic development, there is some sort of difference between Kerala model of economic development that Kerala follows and the national model of economic development. And I'm not going in detail into that area. As a result of the increasing population pressure, the requirements of the people increased. And we know that the requirements of the people increased. We have to find better other options, or we have to build our buildings, or we have to find certain infrastructure facilities for the increasing education facilities or health facilities, etc., etc. And the situation became more complex. And that complex situation emerges because the economic development as well as the structural changes. The structural changes means there is a shift from the workforce from the primary sector to the secondary sector and to the tertiary sector. We know that in the initial stages of economic development, people are more concentrated on the agricultural sector. And when educational attainment increases and the number of skilled people increases, they shift their work from the agricultural sector to the industrial sector. And when further development also occurs, there is a shift to the tertiary sector or the service sector also. And that shift in the structural occupational situation, it will lead to, or it led to, the changes in the land use. And the changes in the land use and the cropping pattern, there will be some sort of changes. And in that, the land plays an important role. And the land plays an important role, that means there are new township occurs, infrastructure facilities occur. We know that in the 50s or the 60s or in the 1970s, there is no such advanced infrastructure facilities in our country. In our state also, there is no such national highways as we see now. And there is no metro railway stations or metro rail transport is there. As the urbanization occurs, we know that urbanization, that is a signal or it is a symbol of economic development theoretically. But nowadays, the urbanization is changed to ruralization. That means people are shifting back from urban areas to rural areas in order to get more fresh air or something like that. The people get boring in the urban areas, only finding some vehicles, or they breathe only the polluted air, etc., and they find need for better facilities in the rural areas. But the situation is that there is no such rural areas. The rural areas are vanishing. That is one among the important problem. And with the changing land use pattern, the important problem is that the wetlands and the paddy lands, they are severely affected. Because when we consider the land area, or when we analyze the price of the land area, the total geographical area, there are different classifications of the total geographical area of our country. The land use pattern, there are forest areas, net zone area, cropped area, etc., etc. And among the different geographical area, we cannot able to encroach the forest area to some extent because it is under the control of the government. And the cheapest land is considered as paddy lands. In the initial stages or in the 50s and 60s, we can earn a paddy land, 1 acre of paddy land with very cheaply. Nowadays also, when considered with the land, this other land area, paddy lands are relatively cheaper. And these relatively cheaper paddy lands, but the cheaper paddy land is only in terms of economic terms, but only in the terms of liquid price terms. They have very important ecological as well as environmental importance are there. And these are severely affected because these paddy lands are converted for constructing buildings, or when we analyze the cash crops, we know that cash crops, where the food crops are cultivation, or food crop cultivation are converted to cash crop cultivation because of the high price for the cash crops. From the term itself, we can understand cash crops. And these are converted for the construction of the infrastructural facilities. But we all know our Cochin International Airport, they are constructed, or the airport is constructed by vanishing large area of our wetlands. And the net impact, there are surely or definitely there are economic linkages or importance are there. There are certain linkage effect, or we can avail certain economic benefits. But in the case of, or when we find out, or when we analyze these ecological as well as environmental consequences, the flood situation, we all see the Keralites are all seen about the flood situation that were occurred, and the area under the CL were severely affected. And the paddy land is defined as in the section 2 of the Kerala Conservation of Paddy Land and Wetlands. Paddy land means all types of land situated in the state where paddy is cultivated at least once in a year, or it is suitable for paddy cultivation, but uncultivated and left fallow. And it includes its allied constructions like bunds, drainage canals, ponds, and canals. I think all the participants are aware, or they are seen with the paddy lands. The paddy land has certain peculiarities. The soil of the paddy land is different from the other soil, and paddy lands are a flooded parcel of land, and in nearby the paddy lands there are small streams, small or large streams are there, and it is surrounded by small bunds, bunds, bunds. And there are certain drainage channels out there, because we know that paddy needs water, and the paddy land can able to absorb water because of the peculiarity of the soil of the paddy land. They can absorb water, and that absorption of water content of the paddy land can help, especially during the flooded time, or also through the both the rainy season and also during the drought season. We all know that the area nearby the paddy lands, the wells and ponds nearby the paddy lands during the summer season, there are plenty of water in that wells and ponds. But the effect is, or the result is that as the developmental activities occurs, the cheap priced paddy lands are purchased. There are so many land mafias are there, and the farmers, they are as a result of the increasing cost of cultivation of paddy and the declining profitability from the paddy cultivation, and they are shifted to other crops, especially the banana cultivation or tapioca cultivation or like that. I am very happy to say that I am born and brought up in this paddy ownership family. And my childhood days, I remember that when the paddy sowing is there or paddy harvesting is there, I am reluctant to go to school because I am very much interested to play in that mud and or play in the paddy land area where there is severe rainfall and the paddy lands and streams are waterlogged. We are very much interested in that type of activities. And nowadays, these are all nostalgic feelings. I think only few people can able to avail these type of beauties, or they can feel these type of beauties. But these are very, very enchanting and very, very nostalgic feeling for me. Okay, and when I just recollect my memories, and then when the shift in the land use pattern occurs, what happens is that that shift in the paddy land will severely affect the environment, not only the environment, but also the food security. There is a food security threat. And when we analyze the food security of our state, Kerala, to some extent, there are increasing number of price, but in the present scenario, the state have to depend upon outside supplies for meeting half of its food grain requirements. We know that Kerala depends upon nearby or the neighboring states, especially Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, etc., etc. The Keralites are very much facing the problem of rise in the price of rice, especially during time of lockdown. And these type of situation emerges. The Keralites' basic staple food is considered as rice, but nowadays the situation is changing. The young generation are shifted from this staple food. The older generation cannot able to take the staple food because of their day-to-day issues in their health. There are so many diseases or the lifestyle diseases will or which will prevent.
सर गुज लिख है सर आप दोनों इतने खुश क्यों हो तो चढ़ा है देखिए चार रहे गुज रखी आप दोनों इतने खुश क्यों हो जेपी सर
I think there is some sort of
destruction की मुस्कान है destruction की कौन से मुस्कान हो है
some sort of disturbance is there.
मौका गेट वेल संतोष सर के हो
Okay. Okay. Then these type of lifestyle diseases will shift the older generation from taking of the staple food, and the young generation are mainly interested to take junk foods or like that. But anyway, our food security of the state are depending upon the outside supplies. And the outside supplies of the food and the outside supplies to meet more than half of its food grain requirements. Then the decline in the paddy cultivation, it affected, as I already said, the domestic requirement of our staple food will also affected, and also it will affect the environment. And the changes in the use of the paddy land to other purposes, mainly for the agricultural purposes and the non-agricultural purposes, led to severe implications of the situation. And as part of my research project or my PhD project, also PhD area is agricultural area, and I made a field study, and entire Kerala is covered by taking a sample, and on the basis of the geographical and historical and cultural similarities, Kerala is divided into North Kerala, Central Kerala, and South Kerala. We know that from the map, political map or the geographical map of Kerala, we can see that Kerala has a sloped geographical area. That means highlands are there, midlands and there, even lowlands are also there. And on the basis of these, from the North Kerala, that means almost in the highlands, and from that Malappuram district is taken for study, and in the case of the Central Kerala, midlands, Ernakulam district was selected, and the lowlands, Alappuzha district is taken from the South Kerala. And on the basis of this geographical area, there are differences in the cultivation also. The Lowlands are particularly good for the paddy cultivation. Midlands are almost suitable for the paddy cultivation and also other cash crops, especially coconut, rubber, etc., etc. And the highlands, they are particularly mainly suitable for tea, cardamom, etc., etc. And this from each district, different blocks are selected. And when we analyze the area under rice production in Kerala, which was formed in 1956 by the political amalgamation of three princely states, in the year 1955-56, when we see the area in hectares, there is 7,59,353 hectares are under the cultivation of rice. And as year passes, when we look upon the data regarding 2020-23, that 7 lakhs becomes only 49,966. You see what a tremendous decline in the area of rice production in Kerala. That decline in the area under rice production means not just a reduction in the area under rice production, it will have severe implications in our environment, in our ecology. The ecological balance is declining or they are vanished. The weather conditions are changing. There are certain ecological imbalances occur. As I already said, the paddy land is a flooded parcel of land. And in that flooded parcel of land, there are severe, small, tiny creatures are there. And surrounding the paddy lands, there are bunds. And that bunds are enriched or they are enriched with certain medicinal plants. Kerala, as it is known for Ayurveda, and that Ayurveda, these type of medicinal plants are very important. But nowadays, we cannot able to see that type of medicinal plants in paddy land because there are no such paddy lands are there. And very, very tiny creatures. That tiny creatures are also played an important role in making the ecology in a state of balance. Or they can make the environment in a balancing situation. We know that the environmental balance and economic development cannot go together. When there is an increase in the economic development, it will definitely affect the environment. And these, when we looking upon the slide and the area, when we analyze it, there is a drastic reduction in the area under rice production. And when we analyze the legislations, we already seen from the slide that there is a reduction in the area under rice cultivation. And then political authorities, they put several legislations in order to protect the paddy lands. Different legislations are done. And I discussed here the two important legislations to protect the paddy lands. First one is Kerala Land Utilization Order, which was in the year 1967. There are two main objectives. That means first objective is to bring the occupied waste or arable lands likely to be felt fallow during a cultivation season back to cultivation with paddy or other food crops. That area cannot be used for any other purposes, only for the cultivation of paddy or other food crops. And second main objective of the Kerala Land Utilization Order is to prevent the conversion of any land cultivated with food crops or other purpose, except with the written permission of the district collector. Only with the permission of the district collector, we can able to convert the paddy land area with food crops for other purposes. And another important revolutionary legislation that put in Kerala to protect the paddy land is Kerala Conservation of Paddy Land and Wetland Act in 2008. And that act says that, or its main objective is to conserve the paddy land and wetlands in Kerala, and we have to restrict the conversion or reclamation in order to promote the growth in the agricultural sector and to sustain the ecological system in the state of Kerala. This act, very beautiful act. But when we go through the Kerala paddy land and wetlands, this act or this beautiful principle remains only in paper. In the implementation side, I say it is an utter failure. Because this act, if this act is implemented in a proper way, Kerala cannot face such a reduction in the area under rice cultivation. Of course, I know that there are different arguments are there, but all the other arguments are in waste when the ecological balance is not in a rhythmic way. From our parents or the grandparents, they are of the experience that the paddy cultivation during the sowing season and during the harvesting season, there is a rhythm in the cultivation of paddy lands or the rice cultivation. In Kerala, the food crop cultivation are based on this Nyatuvela. There are on the basis of the Nyatuvela, that means the crop calendar is there. And during the sowing season, Nyattupat is there. Nyattupat means Nyara means the seedlings of paddy. And that seedlings of paddy is sowing or they are planted with a Nyattupat, and the rhythm is very beautiful. And during times of harvesting also, there is Koithupat. Koithu means harvesting. Koithupat is also there. The rhythm is very nice. I think that sort of songs are almost vanishing. Even some areas in Palakkad, I think, is some exist. I know whether it is, sorry, in a very nice way. But these type of situations or these type of rhythmic culture of paddy land are vanishing. And when the very ancient period or in the 50s or 60s, the wealth of a family depends upon how many acres of paddy land or how many tons of rice are there in their patayam. Patayam means the paddy storing area in which it is bounded by wooden planks, and in the wooden planks the rice are kept for the entire season for their food requirements. And these type of pictures are vanishing. The trends are changed. Even in those periods, the girls are getting married to a family where there are large acres of paddy are cultivated. But these trends are vanishing. The young generation are not interested in this type of cultivation. They are in favor of white-collar jobs. Surely they are in search of white-collar jobs for better earnings. the IT boom emerges, when the IT sectors are emerging or they are increasing in number, we have to give infrastructure facilities. And that infrastructure facilities, when we analyze the infrastructure facilities, the infrastructure can be divided into physical infrastructure and social infrastructure. The social infrastructure are given by giving transportation facilities and education facilities. And these facilities are given by converting these paddy lands. And this Kerala Conservation of Paddy Land and Wetland Act are remained almost in paper. And when we analyze through the percentage of paddy land conversion, the table-wise analysis is done by taken into consideration of these three areas. That means from the Malappuram district, Kuchipuram block is selected. From the Ernakulam district, Kuvapadi block is selected. And from the Alappuzha district, Veliyanad block is selected. And when we go through the table, we can see that only 11.6% of the paddy lands are not converted in Kuchipuram. Only 21.1% of the paddy land are not converted in Kuvapadi or in Ernakulam district. Only 24.8% of the paddy land are not converted to other purposes in Veliyanad. Veliyanad is one among the block in Alappuzha district, and Alappuzha has a waterlogged area. They are most commonly given importance to rice cultivation to some extent, but there are certain threats to the paddy cultivation in that area. In the case of the central Kerala, only 21.1%, and in the Kuchipuram only 11.6% are not converted. And when we analyze the table, more than 75% of the paddy land area are converted. In the areas, when we analyze the percentage, 37.4% are converted, or the households, they are converted more than 75% of their paddy land area. 38.2% of the households in the Kuvapadi, they convert their paddy land area more than 75%. And in the Veliyanad block, 4.8% of the households convert more than 75%. That means the Veliyanad block, they remain more or less in compared to that of other blocks. And coming to the next slide, that means the area of converted paddy fields under reversible form and irreversible form. We all know the reversible form means the paddy land, when used for other crops, they can easily converted to their original form. Irreversible form means they cannot be able to convert it to its original form. And the reversible form, 34.5% of the area are in the reversible form in Kuchipuram, 31.5% area under reversible form in Kuvapadi, 14.1% reversible form in Veliyanad. Overall, when we analyze, there is 30.1% of the area are in reversible form. But when we look upon the irreversible form, see the difference. The reversible form, as I already said, it cannot be able to replace its original form. That means 65.5% of the land area cannot go back to its original form in Kuchipuram. 68.5% of the land area are not able to replace its original form in Kuvapadi. 85.9, that means more than 50% of the land area under this area cannot be go back to its original form of paddy land. That means that severe implications our human being or our generation have to face. Lack of paddy lands and its implications. Then the threats, when we analyze the threats, these land use changes effects are mainly categorized into environmental and socio-economic effects. There are surely socio-economic effects are there. When we analyze the socio-economic effects, all the families, they are of the opinion that the shift from the paddy lands to other crops or other construction activities will surely gain to them, socially as well as economically. That means their social status will improve, or their social status improved as a result of finding better employment opportunities in other sectors, or they find employment opportunities abroad, their living standards increased, their way of the societal relationship improved, and in the case of the economic effects also surely when the income level increases, the purchasing power increases, and as a result of the increase in the purchasing power, definitely the demand increases, and as a result of the increase in the demand, from the economic point of view, they have to invest more. When the investment increases, that means there is an increase in the capital formation. That increase in the capital formation will again have some implications for the economic development. That means from the socio-economic effect, it will benefit for the families as well as the societies. That means the economy as well as the society are in a better situation. But the environmental impact is very threatened, or the environmental impact is very pathetic situation. That means when we analyze the environmental and ecological functions of paddy fields, as I already discussed, the paddy land is a typical wetland ecosystem. As in the lower classes or in our primary classes, we all studied what is ecosystem, and there is a food chain system, etc., are there. And the paddy land, it is a natural drainage for the flood water. That means during the times of flood, paddy land can absorb huge quantity of water because it has the capacity, or paddy land has the capacity to absorb millions of liters of water. And that absorbing capacity preserves the groundwater level. And the groundwater level in the nearby areas of paddy lands is very much nourished. And also there is these paddy lands, it leads to the preservation of rich variety of flora and fauna. These paddy lands and wetlands, these resources are regarded as the most productive ecosystem in the world. As we cannot able to see with our naked eyes, There are small, tiny creatures are there. Every small, tiny creatures have to play some role in maintaining the ecological balance or environmental balance. We as a human being, we cannot able to find out the important role played by these minute creatures. We are all of a position that without human beings, the world cannot exist. But without these tiny creatures, we cannot able to survive. Every tiny creature has an important role for maintaining the ecological balance or this environmental balance. And this function of paddy field in offering the food security and also biodiversity conservation are of immense benefit to the people. That means they maintain fertility and they have certain hydrological function and they provide habitat to plants. They provide habitat to these microorganisms. And there are certain economic services are there. That means they can open access property which are used for collecting grass. Grazing lands are there. These are considered as the fodder for the cattle. Then in the paddy fields, catching fish is there. In the bund, gathering medicinal plants are there. So many wild vegetables are there. Then these paddy lands after harvesting, they are considered as the playgrounds for the young people or young children. The children during their vacation time or the school time when the schools are closed in the rural areas of our state are seen with huge number of young children or children are playing in the playgrounds which are of paddy lands, and these are all vanished. And when we analyze the environmental issues because of the changes in the paddy use pattern, again there is a table, and that tabular representation represents the severity index for the environmental issue because of changes in the paddy fields. And there are different reasons are there, and the households are given these reasons, and based on their opinions, these reasons are ranked, and the different reasons are the reduction in the groundwater level, increase in flood during rainy season, decreasing availability of fresh water, contamination of water resources, reduction in fish and other small creatures, decrease in the water storage capacity of soil, improper discharge of waste and plastics, increase in pest, increasing incidence of diseases, disappearance of scenic beauty of enchanting paddy fields, loss of biodiversity, and the certain other factors are also given. And among the different reasons, the severity index ranked first as reduction in the groundwater level. The paddy lands, when converted to other purposes, the groundwater level declined. Then there is decreasing availability of fresh water. And then coming the third one, the biodiversity is lost. Fourth, there are contamination of water resources. I when go through the field study in the Alappuzha district and also in the Ernakulam and also in the Malappuram district, when the paddy fields are converted for other purposes, especially the workshops, that means the automobile workshops are built in the nearby paddy fields, And these oils and grease are all, and also certain industrial waste because of the building up of industrial areas. These are all go through the, or they are going through, flowing through to the paddy fields, and the freshwater availability or the water resources are contaminated. Then the water storage capacity, the fifth rank is for the decrease in the water storage capacity declined. Then improper discharge of waste, when the paddy fields are not used for cultivation, the plastic waste or the other type of waste are discharged through these areas. And seventh rank is given for increase in the flood, especially during the rainy season. Then disappearance of the scenic beauty of enchanting paddy fields. We know that when the foreigners, they visit to Kerala, even farm tourism is considered as one of the important area under tourism sector. They are very much interested in the sowing and also in the harvesting, and also the enchanting paddy fields that seen are totally vanished. Then reduction in the fish and other small creatures. The small creatures are vanishing, as I already said. Increase in pest. Then comes increasing incidence of diseases as a result of the contaminated water, like that. Then when we analyze the next slide, the disappearance of some medicinal plants and some creatures from the paddy fields. The households, among the households in the 3 blocks, they are of the opinion that these disappearance of medicinal plants are there. That means these creatures and these medicinal plants are disappeared. Almost 97.4% in the Kuttipuram, 100% in Kuvapadi and 100% in Villayanad are of the opinion that the medicinal plants are vanished, small creatures are vanished, and even they cannot able to hear the noise of these small creatures. These type of medicinal plants cannot be able to seen anywhere in the land, and it will have severe threat in our this Ayurveda sector or like that. Then when come to the food security concept, the concept of food security, when we analyze the concept of food security through the next slide, we can able to understand that food security is defined as the access to food to meet what people need biologically for a healthy and fulfilling life. That means the sustainable agricultural production is there. They have to ensure a sustainable agricultural production. And we have sufficient income for assessing the food materials. And the availability of a balanced diet is there for avoiding our hidden hunger. In 1996, according to the Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO, they defined food security exists when all people at all times, they have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe and nutritious food to meet their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. And this food security, when analyzed in terms of availability, access, this physical availability is only if there is physical availability of food materials. This availability of food materials can met by a reasonable price, and people have the economic availability or economic accessibility to avail these food materials. Surely nowadays we have to some extent economic accessibility or availability is there, but the physical availability of food materials, we have to depend upon other states or other countries. As globalization is going on, there is no such restrictions for the import and export. And so the problem is that we cannot able to guarantee its safety and nutritious content. There are so many indigenous type of food materials which we produced in our state. In the case of the paddy cultivation, different types of rice have different medicinal values, and that type of medicinal values, in the last 2-3 days, I have heard about a type of rice that means Raktashali rice. When I discussed it with I came to know that that type of rice is very much good for curing diabetics. It is the rice under the forest area, and 1 kg cost for rupees 600, like that. That means like that, different varieties of seeds or rice are there, and different varieties have different medicinal values are all. But these type of rice are vanishing. And in Kerala, there is a person that named as Cheruvail Raman, and he has an important peculiarity is that he earned large varieties of rice, and he gives that type of varieties of rice to everyone or whoever it needs. But only condition is that the person who buy or bought that type of variety of rice from him have to give back that type of rice after cultivating that type of rice. But these type of varieties of rice are all vanishing from our scene. Then when we analyze in the next slide, when we analyze the changes in the food habit due to the loss in the self-reliance in rice. And the introductory part, I already said that our food habit is changing, both the young generation and the older generation. Young generation are in favor of new gen food. I say in the new gen food, that means the junk foods are all there. But in the old generation, they cannot able to take the staple food because of the lifestyle diseases. And when we analyze the responses, the 83% of the households in the Kuttipuram block are of the opinion that they changed their food habit, or their food habit, they lost their self-reliance in rice. Sorry. In Veliana, 2.4% only they lost their self-reliance. That means they can able to find their food materials from their own. And when we analyze the percentage of respondents, coming to the next slide, different modes of conversion of paddy fields. As I already discussed, the paddy fields are converted. One important feature is that the paddy fields are converted by destroying the hillocks. The hillocks and the paddy fields both have the water storing capacity. And by destroying the hillocks and taking sand from the hillocks and putting it into the paddy fields, both the hillocks are destroyed and also the paddy fields are also destroyed. And among the different modes, as I already said, putting sand from hillocks, putting sand as part of construction of infrastructural activities in the nearby areas, and digging canals by manual work. That means in the paddy fields for the cultivation of banana or like tapioca or like that type of crops, the paddy fields as a result of the water logging area, they dig canals and their original form was destroyed. And digging canals by using machines or by manual, then large stones are put in the paddy fields. And these type of modes, when we analyze the different areas, these hillocks, putting sand from the hillocks, 80.6 in Kuchipuram, 50.7 in Kuvapadi, and 71.5% in Viliyanad. When we go through that area, that means during my field study, feel very sad to see like that. That means the enchanting paddy fields are destroyed by converting these type of modes will definitely affect its environmental habitat or ecological habitat. That will leads to the decline in or the ecological balance are declining. And when coming to the next slide, the households are responded on the basis of their water shortage during the summer season. As I already discussed in my previous slide, that means there is huge reduction in the groundwater level as a result of the changing land use pattern of paddy fields. And 89% of the respondents in the Kutipuram are of the response that they have water shortage. 94.6% of the respondents in the Kuvapadi are also of the opinion that they have water shortage, and 93.3% of the respondents in the Viliyanad, that means in the Alappuzha district, even if they are waterlogged area, they are of the opinion that they have water shortage because of the conversion of the paddy fields. And coming to these water shortage, they have to depend upon other public source of water. And these public source of water are not at all safe. And we know that water is one of the important need for a human being for their survival. When water is contaminated, all type of diseases, there is a chance for these type of diseases. And clean water means to some extent that individual or households have some sort of better living. But with the conversion of paddy fields, the water storing capacity of the paddy fields, and for using the hillocks, that means putting the sands from the hillocks, destroying the hillocks also, what a tragic situation emerges in our economy or in our Kerala state. There are so many arguments against these type of situations. That means there are so many arguments in favor of conversion of paddy fields. But as I already said, the ecological balance or the environmental balance cannot be bought from a shop or cannot be bought from anywhere. It is a natural gift. We cannot able to build a paddy field. We can able to build multi-story buildings. We can able to put different type of modes of transportation. We can build metro rails. We can construct aerodromes, airports, etc., etc. But this natural type of wetlands or natural paddy fields cannot be able to build by human beings. The human beings cannot able to construct. It is a very sad thing that wide area of paddy fields, wide area of wetlands are destroying or converted only in terms of economic factors, or the economic benefits are only taken into consideration. When we analyze the sustainability issue, we all know, sorry, the sustainable development. We are all aware about the definition of sustainable development by the Brundtland Commission. That means meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the needs of the future generation. We have no right to compromise the needs of the future generation. We avail these type of benefits or these types of peculiarities from these type of natural gift only because of our older generation preserve these type of natural resources. But the present generation, a big question to this present generation, what this present generation preserve for the future generation? How can the future generation enjoy these type of benefits? Even the fresh air, how they take the fresh air? Like in the advanced countries, in Kerala, after 50 or 100 years, I think the number of oxygen parlors are increasing. Nowadays, we are not even discussing about or even not thinking about the fresh air we take every moment. Some sort of fresh air is not available for us. Think about the situation, the tragic situation. These are all we have to face. So for the sustainability, for the sustainable development of our state, for the sustainable development of our country, for the sustainable development of our world, we have to preserve these type of natural resources. Only then the future generation can exist. Only then the future generation thanks to the previous generation. What all benefits we avail nowadays are all only through the preservation of these type of resources from our older generation. So we can say a big thanks to older generation, and all we have to preserve the existing remaining paddy fields and wetlands for the sustainable environmental and ecological development of our country. That means if the environmental balance and ecological balance are not there, think about the situation of our future generation. So with the conclusion of sustainable development or the sustainability, that means the human beings are not become greedy. They have to preserve some elements for the future generation. They have also the right to live. They have also the right to enjoy these type of environmental facilities or ecological facilities. Nowadays, when the future generation when we discussed about the future generation, are you heard about rice or rice plan? They don't know. Majority of the young generation are not aware even the cultivation of rice. Even the staple food is rice. And this situation became grave. So, with the conclusion, all the participants, I have a request that we have to preserve our natural resources for the future generation, and thus the sustainable development are to be ensured. And I take this opportunity for the Chandagiri College team for selecting such a wonderful topic, relevant topic for the FDP program. And these type of discussions are very much good for the generations to come. And once again, I thank for the coordinator and the co-coordinator, who is my brother. And thank you, the Chandagiri team, for inviting me. And thank you for the participants for the patient listening. And I once again, for the participants, be a generation for standing for a sustainable development. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for enlightening the session. We will now proceed to the question and answer session. Participants are requested to post your questions in the chat box, or you can unmute your microphones and ask the queries. Participants, any queries? Thank you, ma'am. Dear participants, thank you once again for your active participation. As we conclude session 9, I now invite Mr. Sriraj Sir, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. As we concluded section 9, I sincerely thank our resource person, Dr. Sheba Abraham, Assistant Professor, Department of Economics, Mar Athanasius College, Kodamangalam, for her informative section on sustainability implication of changing land use dynamics in Kerala's paddy fields. Her talk provides valuable insights into sustainable land use and make the session meaningful. Once again, we thank her for sharing her knowledge. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sriraj sir. Dear participants, the feedback link will be provided at the end of next session. Kindly remain online. The next session will be starting shortly, sharp at 7:30 p.m. Thank you.
Your PPT is visible, sir.
Hello. Yeah, I was trying to share my PPT. I hope it's visible.
Yeah, yes, it's visible, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Sir, can you put it in a slide mode, sir? Sir, can you please put it in a slide mode?
Yes.
Yes.
Is it in full screen mode? Yeah.
Yes, it's full screen.
Is my sound is clear?
Yes, your sound is clear.
Okay. Yeah.
Once again, good evening to all. I am Shibu Abraham, Assistant Professor, Department of Management, and co-coordinator of this FDP. I am the host of the session. Respected dignitaries, esteemed resource persons, faculty members, research scholars, and dear participants, on behalf of Shandagiri College, Varithala, Kerala, in collaboration with the AICTE, it's my privilege to welcome you all to the session 10 of day 5, handled by Dr. Sabin Thalepurel, scheduled from 7:30 p.m. to 9. The theme of the session is climatic change and weather extremes, a meteorological perspective. The session examines how long-term changes in the Earth's climate system that are influencing the frequency, intensity, duration, and a special distribution of extreme weather situations. Next, to formally commence today's program, I now invite Mr. Ashwin T.J., Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science, to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, Mr. Shibasa. It's a pleasure to extend a warm welcome to all the respected faculty members and valued participants today's session of our FDP. We are delighted by your presence and participation. The overreaching theme of this FDP, Green Transitions, Leveraging Digital Tools and Strategic Leadership for Climate Resilience, highlights the importance of digital innovation and effective leadership in fostering sustainable and resilient systems. In alignment with this theme, today's session focuses on climate change and weather extremes. It is with great pleasure that I extend a warm and respectful welcome to our distinguished guest, Dr. Sabin Thalepurel, scientist who will be presenting on climate change and weather extremes, a meteorological perspective. We are truly honored by his presence today, which adds immense value to this program and to all of us gathered here. Dr. Sabin Thalepurel is a renowned climate scientist with expertise in climate change research, high resolution and paleoclimate modeling, monsoon dynamics, and hydrological cycle variations. He currently serves as scientist at the Institute of Tropical Meteorology, Pune, and has also been associated with prestigious institutions such as New York University, Caltech, the Japan Meteorological Agency, and IPSL France, reflecting his strong global research profile. His contributions have earned him several prestigious recognitions, including his role as a contributing author and chapter scientist of the IPCC 6 assessment report, representation of MOES at COP25, and numerous national, international fellowships and awards. We are confident that his insights will be highly inspiring and enriching. Once again, we extend a very warm welcome to Dr. Sabin Thalepurel and looking forward to an enlightening session. I request all the participants to keep your microphones muted during the session for the smooth conduct of program. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashwin sir. Now the virtual floor. Thank you. Now the virtual floor is yours, Sabin sir, please.
I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah.
You are audible.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction and inviting me to deliver this lecture. It's really a privilege and honor always to teach teachers because you are nurturing the next generation. Really honored to be part of this AICTE FDP program. So this talk, I will be basically giving a brief overview of entire Earth's climate system and how basically we are doing Earth system modeling, so basically climate modeling. And then we will be able to see what are the changes or what are the climate change signals what we are witnessing as of now, and a kind of in future what is going to happen. So these are all the things what I'm just briefly going to include in this lecture. I think it's already explained about my institute. We are under Ministry of Earth Science basically, I don't know anyone is joined from Pune. This institute is located at Pune. Is anybody joined from Pune? Maybe we'll take questions later. I think you are instructed to keep mic muted. Okay, so basically we do climate change research, and Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology is a R&D institute which is doing basic research in all components of Earth's climate system. So that means we do research on ocean, we do research on atmospheric science, we do climate change research, and we do thunderstorm dynamics, we do electricity. So a lot of stuffs we do, in which I personally belongs to a center called CCCR, which is Center for Climate Change Research, which is nation's climate change research lab, we can say. So in my center, we basically supposed to do the development of Earth system model. So that means we have to develop climate models based on mathematical equations. Then to study the past climate, there are some groups which make reconstructing the past climate. Then there is a aerosol chemistry climate group. So basically they deal with chemistry, atmospheric chemistry. And there are, these greenhouse gas measurements, flux measurements, methane gas emission measurements. All those things are also very, very important for a climate perspective. So we do all this research. So I basically belongs to this IITM Earth System Model Development Group. So basically you can call me as a climate modeler. So I did my basic degree from Cochin University. I have a MSc, Masters in Physics, Bachelor's in Physics. Then I did a Master's in Meteorology. Then by profession, I am a meteorologist and specifically working on climate modeling. So that's all about me. And through this lecture, I will try to give you a brief overview of climate change, climate modeling, and how to separate the human. So always we tell something like that, is this climate change is man-made or not? So how we can precisely tell those kind of things. So then how we design climate models. So then, of course, we will in detail explain what are all the extremes, what we are going to witness over the Indian region, as well as over some glimpse of global overview also I will try to give. So anytime if any kind of doubt or anything need to be specifically mentioned, you can always give me a hint. So we will take it as in an interactive mode. I have no issue. If any objection from your side, you can keep the question reserved for the last as well. So basically, we all know that the IPCC report, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report, frequently come with every 5 years. Every 5 years, they produce a report. Basically, that report is the state of the climate. How is the climate as of now? So in the very recently released report, it's very precisely telling something like that. Let me use my pen. So this is the temperature record reconstructed for the entire period from over something like something for the past 2000 year period. So over this period, you can see that we are at an epoch of sharp shooting period, something like a hockey stick or something like that. So this is what we worried about. And over a period of 150 or 200 year or last 100 year period, the climate is completely warmed. And we always try to connect that warming as something related with the Industrial Revolution. And always this report is something like telling something like that. This kind of climate change was unprecedented for the last 2000 year period. So this is a kind of, we are taking a bail, something like that. So that means this warming is something unusual if you compare 2000 years. If you go back to 2000 years, this kind of temperature rise is something unprecedented or what not there in the history of until 2000 years. So, but that itself is saying something like that. The climate was warmer much longer ago. So you may be aware about the interglacial period. There were younger dryas period. In geological time scale, there were warmer period, medieval warm period, Holocene, that mid-Holocene. Those kind of epochs were there. There were cooler epochs as well. There were warmer epochs as well. So those are all the things which had a gradual change over a period of 1,000 year, 20,000 year, 30,000 year, or 60,000 year, which is somewhat connected with sun's orbital cycle. Okay, we call it as orbital driven climate change. So which will never happen in a shorter time span of 100 years or something. So this is something unusual. warrant a certain kind of special attention or special kind of studies, since we are receiving a lot of unusual signature in terms of extreme rainfall, extreme temperature, all those things, which is something in an alarming rate or alarming scale we can. So that warrants something like that. This need to be particularly need some attention or something like that. In another figure, which is in this right panel, you can say that this is the figure which we clearly say that this much temperature. So this is for the last 2000-year period, and the right hand side is from starting from 1850 to 2020. We can say roughly say present day for the last 150 years. So that this is the global mean surface temperature. So that means just imagine your globe, and we are just averaging the global mean temperature. You might have taught your students something like that. The global mean temperature is something like 17 degree or something like that. And if you average this temperature, and if you remove the temperature of this period, so that means we call it as anomalous change or something like that. So if you remove the temperature of this period from whatever you are receiving, and every year we are repeating that exercise, so that make this time series. So this is what we usually call it as the temperature is warmed by 1.2 degrees centigrade or something. So whenever this is the observed temperature line, the black line belongs to this is observed temperature change. So what we will do is that take the temperature data, remove a particular time temperature, so that we call it as climatological mean temperature. So let us say this year temperature was 17 degree, and this next year 17.5 degrees, 17.2 degrees, something like that, is reached up to 18.2. So you removed the 17 degree, so that it's reached up to 1.2 degree warming. So that's what usually we call it as the global temperature change is reached up to 1.2 degrees centigrade in the last century. And there is a green line. This line, now I am drawing it as a with a red line. So this is a simulation which used only natural climate variabilities. I will explain what are all the things and how we are doing this simulation, all those things I will explain. But this is a temperature from a model simulation when we made a simulation only using the natural variability. So the natural variability can be something like solar radiation, volcanic eruption. So if any natural components which can change the climate, those we call it as natural variability. I will explain all those things again in later. But now we can just say something like that. If there is natural variability only happening, the temperature would not have been changed like this. So the temperature what you were experiencing at 1850 would have been the same temperature even in the present day condition or even today as well. But this temperature we call it as, so that means this is another simulation which we made. So the black line is from the observation, and there is a light shaded line almost near to, I will remove it. You can see there is a light brown line, which is from a simulation which is done with anthropogenic as well as natural simulation. So that means that is a cumulative impact of anthropogenic as well as natural. So that means you all know that we produce a lot of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, fossil fuel burning, industrial emission, a lot of factory emission. So all those things will make a lot of carbon dioxide, a lot of methane, a lot of other gaseous concentrations which can warm our atmosphere simply using the greenhouse effect. So if that concentration is increased in the atmosphere, and if I incorporate those details in my model, and if I make a simulation, the temperature will be reaching somewhere here. So the one which is very close to this black line, which is from the observation. So from the observation, it is touching here. If I made a simulation with human-induced changes plus natural, the temperature is here. And if I made a simulation only with natural variability, the temperature is not changed. So this change, we can clearly say that this is a anthropogenically driven climate change. So this how we, using climate models, make a conclusion something like this. This temperature rise or whatever the changes which has happened is due to climate change or not. So the main concern is something like that. We all know that the temperature is increasing, and some of you might have learned that something like when the global mean temperature touch, you maybe heard about Paris Agreement, which may be saying something like that. We should try or aim to limit the temperature, global temperature rise is something 1.5 degree warm. So if we increase more than that, the catastrophe will increase. So this is something like a global mean pattern of temperature. The top panel, which is shown in the shaded diagram. What is the changes in temperature with respect to 1850 to 1900? So always this time period will come in our climate references. This is because we always take a reference as pre-industrial condition. So before, so we all know that something about in US and Europe, the industrial revolution is started from 1900. We are a bit late, but in the Western and in American continent, this industrial revolution is almost started in 1900 time. So we treat something before that is a pre-industrial condition. So there were not carbon dioxide production was somewhat less. So any climate reference usually we take with that period. So compare with the pre-industrial period. If the global mean temperature is touching 1.5 degree, the mean map of temperature will be something like this. So this is something like that. If you average the entire globe as a single value, okay, then you remove the 1850 to 1900 value, just like in the slide what I mentioned before. Okay, just assume it as a time series. And whenever your temperature is 1.5 degrees, so now it is something like that. The present day value in our previous slide explains something like that. Now we are at 1.2 degree. So this 1.5 degree will be achieving something about 2030 or something, 2040 or something like that. So whenever the global mean temperature with respect to the pre-industrial period rise up to 1.5 degree, the global mean temperature will be like this. There is a single value, but the spatial will be somewhat like this. You can see that over this region, the warming will be slightly more. Over Indian region, the warming will be less than somewhat. It will be touching somewhat 1.2 degree or 1.3 degree. The globe is not warming uniformly everywhere. There can be ocean region will be slightly less warmer. Some ocean region will be more warmer. So now you can see the bottom panel figure, which is the rainfall changes. How will be the rainfall if the global mean temperature is somewhat like this? So you can see that over the African region and over the Indian region, the precipitation seems to be increasing. So this is something like that. The precipitation also with respect to this period. So comparing to the pre-industrial period, we are going to get, if the shaded color is greenish, the precipitation will be increasing something 10 to 20%. So this over Indian region, you can see that the precipitation, if the temperature is increasing 1.5 degrees centigrade, the precipitation will be somewhat 20 or 20% or 10 to 20% more than what we were experiencing at a pre-industrial period. So that means we are going to get more precipitation. That is the simple nutshell. And if the temperature is exceeding 2 degrees centigrade, the precipitation also will be changing. So you can see that this is becoming darker and darker over the Africa and over Indian region. So you can assume something like that, the precipitation increase maybe 30%. If the global mean temperature is touching 4 degrees centigrade, so this will be going to happen something at 2100. So 100 years from now, this is going to be the situation what we are going to face. At that time, the rainfall, you can see that it will be more than 40% or 50% increase in precipitation we are going to experience over this Indian region. So you can experience, now also we are having a lot of catastrophe with the extreme precipitation during our monsoon season. So now you can assume if the temperature is become this, how much catastrophe we can expect, and if the temperature is this one, how much catastrophe we can expect. So this will be much more than what we can manage, or we can engineer, or we can even expect, or we can, its impact or mitigation effect will be too high. So in general, this is also taken, image taken from the IPCC report. So you can say that you can just assume this as a global map. So this is Indian region, whatever written as South Asia, and this is the Africa, and this is South America and North America. So almost everywhere, wherever this is shaded as red shade, the temperature extremes are going to increase. So it's a kind of uniform pattern. Almost all the global region temperature extremes are going to increase. This is something same map, but wherever the greenish shades are shown, the rainfall related or the heavy kind of precipitation seems to be increasing. So it's very obvious, well obvious that over the South Asian region, over the region where India belongs, the precipitation seems to be increasing. So obviously the extremes also seems to be increasing. Over the European region and the East Asian region and some part of South Africa and North American, some portion of North America, Canada, this belt, wherever the green shades are denoted, the precipitation seems to be increasing, or heavy kind of precipitation we can increase. Drought is also seems to be increasing at some regions, but since the Indian region, we are experiencing or expected to get more rainfall, drought may not be a big issue in future, but we are going to face a lot of a kind of extreme kind of rainfall over this region. But you can see that over the Mediterranean region, some parts of Europe, and this northern side of Canada and all, there are a high chance of going to become witness more drought-like condition. Over the South African region also, there are kind of drought-prone areas will be going to happen in future. So even if we are following the emission scenarios, I will be explaining these things later in the coming slide. So even if we are following very low emission scenario or even moderate emission scenario, future temperature rise will be somewhat something 2 degree to 3 degree more than that what we are experiencing in present day. So that is going to create some catastrophic condition, especially in terms of extremes. Anyway, this also we will be explaining in details later. So, but just giving some number again in terms of a quantification, you can think something like that. We count the extremes in terms of an event is considered as a very heavy kind of incident, which is appearing once in 10 years in current day scenario or in the pre-industrial period. So this is something like that. This kind of extreme event will be witnessing in a decade, once in a decade or something. That will become thrice in a decade if the temperature is become 1 degree warmer, and that will become 4 times in a decade if the temperature is 1.5 degree, and that will become something like 6 times in a 10-year period if the temperature is 2 degree warmer. If the temperature is become 4 degree warmer, that will become an annual affair. So that kind of an unusual, so we will say that once in a decade or once in a century kind of event. So those kind of event will become every year you can expect such an event. So in terms of temperature extremes, this is going to be a tough situation. In terms of rainfall extremes, it's not that much alarming as the temperature records. So again, the greenish map, the green map in the left side, you can assume this is something related with the heavy precipitation. So this is also a once in a decade kind of event. Will not have much change if the temperature is 1 degree warmer. If the temperature is 1.5 degree warmer, that will become twice in a decade. So that means a kind of every 5 years you can expect something like that. That will become thrice in a decade if the temperature is become 4 times. So this is something like that is very directly related. If there is more temperature, more evaporation. More evaporation can lead to more rainfall. But since over a global domain, the temperature and the rainfall relation is not uniform because large scale circulation is also playing major role in that. So that means that's why some places you are going to get more rainfall or excess rainfall. Some places with temperature increase, you can expect even drought-like situation also. This is something like agricultural or ecological drought. What will happen to those kind of things if the temperature is 4 degree warmer? So it's not only the rainfall increasing with temperature, the drought kind of situation also can be increased along with the temperature. So once in a decade kind of deficit rainfall or drought kind of situation can double if the temperature is 1 degree warmer. It will be retained as same until the temperature is 2 degrees centigrade. It will become 4 times or 4 such events you can expect in a decade if the temperature is warmer than 4 degrees centigrade or something. So a lot of catastrophic events are going to happen. So now we will see in details how these are doing, how using climate change, these kind of things we can explain. So you all aware that the Earth's climate system is having multiple components. The major components are ocean and atmosphere. There are cryosphere is there. There are lithosphere, and you can split into an biosphere is there, and you can split into many other layers as well. So basically, the entire Earth's engine is working from solar energy. So basically, we are receiving shortwave radiation from the Earth, from the sun, which is basically you can use it, easily relate with this Stefan Boltzmann law. So this is fourth power law. You all well aware of this. I'm sure some of you at least will be following this physics. So something like, so since the temperature is very high, whatever receiving from sun will be in forms of shortwave radiation. So since it is shortwave radiation, it can penetrate through the gaseous component or even the small dust or something like aerosol particle in the atmosphere. It can penetrate because it's shortwave radiation. So it will be reaching at the Earth's surface. But when it touches the Earth's surface, again, this radiation will be following the temperature of Earth. So comparing to the sun will be at a warmer temperature of 6,400 Kelvin or something. The Earth is at a lower temperature. So naturally, what are all emitting from the Earth's surface, we usually call it as long wave radiation. So if this, since the wavelength is changing according to the temperature, so this long wave radiation will be stopped at the gaseous component in the atmosphere. So that is in a way is a kind of blessing to the atmosphere. So you all know that if there is no atmosphere or if there is no greenhouse effect, the Earth would have been almost life would not have been possible in Earth because we would have been at a cooler state. But since there is a some gaseous component like carbon dioxide, water vapor, or those kind of gaseous component is blocking this back radiation from the Earth and re-radiating to the Earth's surface. That is the natural greenhouse effect of Earth atmosphere. We are maintaining a kind of temperature which is something like the whatever the degrees what we usually maintain at the Earth surface. So this is basically governing from the whatever the receiving from the solar system and whatever we are using for various processes in the atmosphere. These energy cycle governs evaporation, then that leads to clouds. This will create temperature imbalance. That will leads to the movement of air in the atmosphere. Naturally, the wind will happen. So all these kinds of changes in the Earth's climate system is happening just because of the solar radiation and its redistribution. So we all aware that equatorial region is receiving more energy and polar regions are losing more energy. So this energy imbalance will create atmospheric circulation. So if continuously energy is accumulating at a particular place, naturally, simply the temperature will increase at a particular place. Then the life will not be possible. Life may not be possible over the tropical region since most of the energy is accumulating over this region. So this energy imbalance will create circulation. So basically, from the equatorial region, the heat is taken by the convection, basically that is going up. And then, so basically in forms of cloud formation, you can just think something like it's a energy exporting mechanism from the tropical region towards the polar region. And in addition to that, there will be circulation. So these are all basically managing the atmospheric energy. And we usually call that as atmospheric general circulation. The same kind of general circulation is there in the ocean as well. Whatever it is, something like that, it's a kind of redistribution of whatever the heat, the energy received in terms of heat or whatever format over the tropical region. It has to be migrated towards the other region, and that basically make the entire Earth's climate system into a livable condition. So now we can see that earlier in my first slide itself, I just mentioned something like that. Climate change can. So this is up to what we mentioned is something like that. What are all the basic state of the climate? And if this is in a balanced situation, the climate or temperature or the whatever the changes would not have been there. Even the rainfall would have been same as what we are receiving at a couple of or hundreds of years back. The temperature would have been something same. The rainfall would not have been that much erratic what we are experiencing now. So everything should have been something same. So some unusual changes are happening. So that's why we are just worried about this, and we are just trying to look into what are all the factors which leads to this. So we are well aware that this natural causes is also there, because even in IPCC's assessment statement itself is telling that the temperature change is unprecedented until last 2000 years, because scientists know that 2000 years back there was a warmer epoch. So this is nothing like it's not something like unusual, or it's not like something like unprecedented or never happened. So it was happened. So there can be a natural cause as well. And then obviously there can be anthropogenic factors also can be create this kind of issue. Natural factors are mostly orbital driven, as I mentioned earlier. Some of you might have remembering the Milankovitch cycle and all. So these are all the tilt and shape of orbit, how close it is in our Earth and Sun. So that basically govern. If you are very close, you will get more energy. So if you are or more temperature, if you are far away, you will get less energy or less temperature. So that is one possibility. So and another thing is that you may be aware that Sun has a inherent 11-year solar cycle. So that means at a 11-year cycle, something like. But if you consider that in a long-term period, there is not much change. So that means this cannot create something like climate change. This factor can create some changes, but this factor cannot. Then there is something called volcanic eruption. So you may be thinking something like that. Volcanic eruptions are a natural phenomenon which can pump tons and tons of fumes and lot of small fine-scale particle gaseous components into the atmosphere. That even can, for example, this you can think something like that. If a big kind of volcanic eruption is happened, you might be remembering the name Pinatubo and Krakatoa. Those kind of eruptions happen. It can even cool the atmosphere for next 1 or 2 years. So that much plumes of dust particles and aerosol particle, we call it as aerosols, are the particle which is very small kind of particle, tiny particle which is suspended in the atmosphere. If we keep these particles in the atmosphere, naturally what will happen? Since these are all small particles, it can interact with the incoming shortwave radiation and it can reflect back. So that is depends upon the property of this particle suspended in the atmosphere. If it is having the reflective property, it can reflect the solar radiation, and so naturally whatever incoming from the sun is reduced. So naturally that can cool your atmosphere or cool your Earth's surface. So volcanic eruption can cool the atmosphere. So these are all the different possibility which can control your temperature. So then another components are basically the anthropogenic changes or the man-made changes. The main man-made changes are, one of the main man-made changes are land use and thought pattern. So if you, since our population is changing, we have started converting this forest area to agriculture area. So that means since we need to create more food for the sustainability or to sustain the human kind and all the living being. So that means basically the crop area is converted, or forest area is converted to crop area. So the main problem is that you may be remembering one word, something like albedo. Basically, that is the reflectivity of Earth's surface. So if the reflectivity of the Earth's surface is, if just think something like that, white surface, which is having the complete reflectivity. So if the surface is white, so it will be completely reflecting. If the surface is completely black, it will be completely absorbing. So that means if a forest is there, it is a kind of dark green. So if that dark green is there, is more close to the black color. So something like that, it will be absorbing more something. The reflectivity will be less. So now, if you are converting that into a kind of mud shade or something like that, or a yellow shade or something like that, if a crop area, it will have a cycle. So that can change the reflectivity of the surface of the Earth atmosphere. So that can create a lot of change in the radiation, and that can make something temperature warmer or cooler in terms of the physical condition at that particular time. So land use and cover change can make a huge impact on Earth's temperature or the climate system. And most crucial factor is the greenhouse effect, which is naturally coming from the burning of fossil fuel. And some main issue of this fossil fuel is basically what we refer is the carbon dioxide, which is having a half-life of or lifespan of more than 1,000 years. Until it is absorbing, it will be staying in the atmosphere. So it is very difficult to remove the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So it can have cascading effect as well. So basically, the industrial revolution induced fossil fuel usage, the electricity generation, the vehicular emission, the industrial emission. All those things can create a lot of changes or a lot of emission to the atmosphere, and that can increase your natural greenhouse effect, which was a blessing once upon a time, and that can amplify what are all the energy trapping in the atmosphere, which will be bounced back to the Earth's surface and naturally will increase the temperature. So the carbon dioxide value, which was something around 280 at the pre-industrial time, so the time which we usually refer, 1900, the carbon dioxide value was just 288 ppm, parts per million. is now something around 424 or something, the 2026 value if you verify. So that means over a period of 100 years, something more than 150 or something, or 100 parts per million is increased in the atmosphere. So that can create a significant impact, and that is mostly we refer as responsible for the sharp increase what we noted from the pre-industrial period, or whatever, if you are referring from this 1880 or 1900 period, if you refer, that is, these are all the changes what created almost all these changes. So now the important question what we can make or something like that, what we try to induce is something like that. How can we study this change in climate? How can we understand? For example, I live in Pune. If I want to know what are all the climate change signal experiencing over this Pune city, so naturally what I should do is that I should try to get some data. So we have India Meteorological Department. So I have to approach India Meteorological Department for some data. So then I can take the data from the department and then just try to analyze for example, the temperature. If temperature suppose I got the data from 100-year period, I am making a time series from that. So if it is something like I am getting a curve something like having an increasing signal, I can say that the temperature over the Pune is increasing. So if I am over a particular region, if the temperature is declining, I have to say that the temperature is decreasing over this place. So any quantity is something like that. If the rainfall, temperature, humidity, or whatever the physical parameters which we can measure, or the wind magnitude. So if there is a consistent change, we can say that, oh, there is some changes happening. If it is decreasing, it's a decreasing. If it is increasing, it's increasing trend. So then we have to dig out what are all the reasons. So now one thing is that it's a data-driven science. So that means you have to get the data. And if the data is showing some signal of increasing or decreasing, then the curiosity is popping up. So why this increasing is happening, or why this decreasing is happening, or how can you understand that? So in such case, from the climate change, climate data, you are just getting a signal, okay, whether increasing or decreasing is there. But you will not be able to say that this is man-made or not, or there are a lot of factors which can warm the atmosphere. For example, if a volcanic emission which created a lot of black carbon in the atmosphere. So black carbon is having a property, something like that. It can warm or it can absorb the solar radiation, or it can absorb the radiation. And so that means if something is absorbing, that will increase the temperature. So there are some particle or naturally driven particle itself which can warm the atmosphere. So we have to know that whether this temperature increase or increment is happen really due to anthropogenic changes or not. At that time, we may have to depend a climate model. So then next question is something like that. There will be a curiosity. Now the temperature is something like that 1.2 degree warm. So what is going to happen in future? So in 2030, what will be the condition? In 2050, what will be the condition? In 2100, what will be the condition? This is very much needed for various government planning and to make some reports, to make some analysis and assessment. So we, at this stage as a future, we don't have any data. So we have to depend upon climate models. At this point of view, basically the climate models are coming into the picture. So some of you may be, all of you may be at least listening the weather forecast from the India Meteorological Department or from any other agency. So basically, they always tell something like that. They use weather model, but what I am mentioning is something like that climate model. So basically, in terms of its internal structure, dynamics, and all, both these kind of modelings are somewhat same. So what we are trying to do is something like that, just trying to mathematically reproduce the physical, chemical, and biological situation of Earth's atmospheric system, including
chat. What is a chat? Chat எங்க இருக்கு? இன்னும் வரலமா?
Yeah.
நீ சொன்னேல chat.
I think somebody's mic is on. Yeah. So basically, we have to represent the entire globe. So that is including ocean, atmosphere, lithosphere, cryosphere, biosphere, the vegetation in the vegetation over the land, vegetation inside the ocean. So all these things we have to mathematically explain. So that means it's a kind of tedious process. So So, but now you can simply think something like that. If you think atmosphere and ocean, both of them are fluid. One is air and one is water. So all the basic equation what we have to use to solve any physical quantity in atmosphere and ocean will be the simple Newtonian equation of motion. Okay, so this is something like that. You are having a cloud in the Arabian Sea. Now you want to estimate something like that, when that cloud will reach at Cochin, or when that cloud will reach at Mumbai, or when that cloud is going to reach at Indore. So this is very simple. You know the distance, you know where it is. You can so the wind velocity also you can estimate. So now using this condition, you can simply estimate using your equation of motion. You can estimate when this cloud is going to come over a particular place, and if the condition is conducive to make a rain. So there are certain conditions. The temperature should be like this. Temperature should be like this. Moisture quantity should be like this. There should be some blocking is needed. So if this condition is meeting, rain can happen there. If it is not meeting, the rain will not happen there. So these are all the only thing which a climate model is supposed to do. So basically, just keep in mind that these are all simple solving the mathematical equation what we are using in any weather model or climate model. Both are same, and all those equations are Newtonian equations of motion. So to make it solvable, or simply uh, to make it estimatable at a particular time and space, we convert those equations in terms of partial differential equation. These are all PDEs. Mathematical teachers and physics teachers will be able to see. At least all of you are familiar with the simple equation of S is equal to UT plus half AT square. Those kind of equation, everybody, all of you are familiar. And these are a different derivative of it's the same format. We using these equations at any particular time and space, you can estimate the tendency. So that is the simple thing you can estimate from this. So to solve this, basically you need U wind, that is the zonal wind, meridional wind, we call it as V wind, vertical velocity of the wind is also needed, humidity of the atmosphere, we call it as Q, that is needed. Then density, all those things are constant. So either it is air, it will come to air density. If it is ocean, it will come to the water density. So that are the changes only going to happen. Then the distance and the time. So if you have a grid-like structure, something like this. So these are all simply in terms of Earth. This is simply your latitude and longitudes. So since we know latitude and longitudes, we can easily make estimate of all these variables at each and every grid points. So this is what simply a mathematical model is supposed to do. So now you think, I know the value of all these quantity at a particular place. Now I can simply estimate two things. What is going to happen at this point, at that time, particular time, and what is going to happen this point at a time increment of t plus 1. That means the next time step. So that is something like a forecast model is supposed to do. Suppose if I have data of today and if I have certain equations, I can estimate what is going to happen tomorrow over the particular place. And if this is a fluid, so it can move to any side. So that means I can estimate the change at the nearby location as well. So this tendency calculation is supposed to do in any kind of mathematical models. You may be heard about something, some people may use statistical model as well. So there is a kind of regression model. So those models is good for certain things, but there are some limitation. These are all since completely these climate models and the current generation weather forecasting models are purely working based on mathematical models. So using the help of supercomputers, we are solving. So this is becoming slightly expensive and complex because we want very precise information. So that means this latitude and longitude points will become too much. So that means this many number of times I have to solve this same equation. So that means, for example, if everyone is expecting to get a weather forecast of something like in a every meter. So the rain temperature is not a is a variable which is not having that much variability, spatial variability. But rainfall is a quantity which is having very micro scale variabilities. For example, it may be raining at a particular place. It may not be raining at 1 kilometer away from that location. So if you want to get that much finer information, that many times you have to solve latitude and longitude. And now, if you want to make that kind of information, your number of latitude and number of longitude are going to increase. And one more factor, this is only what we are mentioning is Earth surface. Now we have to solve this up to the top of the atmosphere. So here also resolution is matter. How finely you are chopping your vertical levels. So that means from the Earth surface till the top of the atmosphere. So that means where the pressure is becoming nearly zero. So that means up to 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 kilometer from the Earth surface, you have to make all these mathematical equation resolved. Something similar you have to do at the ocean as well, because ocean waves will be moving from here and there. That is taking the water from one place to other. That is also having a lot of impact in the Earth's climate system. So that means from the surface of the ocean till the bottom of the Earth, bottom of the ocean, you have to make. So you have to make that many times you have to make thin slices and make all these equation, all these partial differential equation solved. You have to solve that many times. I hope the mic that's not a question or something. So
Unable to hear you, sir. You got mute also.
Your sound is mute, sir. We cannot hear anything.
okay,
Done.
is it clear now?
Now it's
Yeah.
okay, sir.
Okay. So at what time this has happened? Are you following this one? This slide, when I explained, the sound was there. Do I need to repeat this? Can anybody unmute and please tell? Up to which slide I was audible?
I think from the current slide.
You may start from little bit back.
I see. Okay. From let me repeat from this slide. Okay. So what I was telling something like that. So we whatever we usually use for weather and climate, both the models are somewhat same, and all the governing equations in both the weather models and climate models were somewhat same. Okay, so these are all simply trying to solve the Newtonian equations of motion. Since something like that, we are always bothered something like that. If a particular air mass or some fluid parcel or something like simply you can assume something like that a cloud is located at a particular location, and when it is going to reach at your particular place, that only we are going to estimate. So that is something like that is very straightforward equation. If you use the equations of motion, so it's at a particular time at a particular space and particular location, and when you know the distance from that place to your location. And now what we want to estimate is something like that. If you know the speed, initial speed of that particular cloud or something like that, we can estimate at what time it will be reaching at this particular place. So that only basically a climate model is supposed to estimate. So to solve that, usually we use the Newtonian equation of motion. Okay, so these are all called partial. These are all in the form of partial differential equation, which will be simply solving the uh, just suppose this is our globe, and now we know that the latitude and longitude points. So at each and every latitude point and latitude and longitude intersection points, we can estimate using this equation. We can estimate the current state of wind, so that is zonal wind and meridional wind, and moisture component at that place. Okay, and the vertical velocity, which is very much needed for the cloud formation. Okay, if there is a vertical ascent in the motion, there is a chance of cloud formation will be there. U, V, Q. So these are wind. U is the zonal wind. V is meridional wind. Q is basically the humidity in the atmosphere. Okay, W is the vertical velocity, and so basically the ocean and atmosphere both are fluids. So one is air and one is water. So the density will be varying. So that's all the only change. So if you have these many equations, so these are basically known as continuity equation and the momentum equation. Momentum equation basically the equation of motions. Okay, and then all these are governed by the temperature equation or thermal equation. So basically we call it as thermodynamic energy equations. So basically it has to deal with the temperature. So there will be a temperature equation also, or energy equation also will be there. So if you have this many set of equation, you can make a simple climate model or weather model you can make. So in real state models, there will be hundreds of equations, hundreds of things will be there. But if you have very much this many set of equation, you can make a very simple primitive equation. So these are all the factors which we needed to make a weather forecast or climate forecast. For example, if I know the condition or physical condition of a particular place, for example, Pune. So now I can just make an estimate, something like that. If next hour, so this is the t, and at t plus 1, after 1 hour or 1 day, t plus 1, what will be the wind at particular location? And then I can estimate something like that. If a cloud is here, it is whether it is moving towards this direction, or whether it is moving towards this direction, or whether it is moving backward or forward or any direction, latitudinally or longitudinally. And I can again estimate using this equation at the next time step what will be the condition of these values. Then if I know these values, there are certain methods to estimate whether a cloud formation is happening or not. So if the physical condition of a particular region is conducive for cloud formation, then only rain will happen. So this set of equation will be able to make the physical, chemical. If you want to make the atmospheric chemistry, there should be another set of equation. Okay, so if you have at least this set of equation, you can make a simple climate model or a weather model. So now the main thing is that this will become complex since you have to solve the entire thing latitudinally, longitudinally at the surface till top of the atmosphere. So that means that will be having something hundreds of kilometers from the surface. The same thing you have to follow from the surface of ocean to the bottom of ocean. For example, if you want to make some estimate of the Mariana Trench or something, from top of the ocean till bottom of the ocean, you have to repeat this equation. So that many times you have to slice this uh, equation, slice this place, and then you have to solve that equation that many times. So that means latitudinally, longitudinally, and vertically, and from the ocean surface to the bottom of the ocean, you have to make multiple times this, solve this equation to make a simple climate forecast. So since this is that much hectic, in a simple personal computer, these kind of equations will not be able to solve. So that means that warrant the use of a supercomputer. So usually using the supercomputer only, we will be able to solve these kind of equations, or we simply call it as running the climate model or running the weather model. So basically, just keep in mind that these are all simple Newtonian equation of motion, which govern the physical movement of any physical quantities, which need to be calculated to make or to estimate the possibility of cloud formation or weather formation over a particular place. And that's what basically a weather model or a climate model is supposed to do. So far, basically, in terms of basic equations, the weather model and climate model are same. Now, okay, so these are already explained. So if you want to make a very fine information, your latitude and longitude points has to be more and more. Okay, so for example, this figure, the latitude longitude points are very, very less. So now you just see these are all the point at Mumbai, and I have another point somewhere over this region, somewhere near the Singapore or something. So anything, any information in between this, I will be getting an interpolated information. So what? So if a person want to understand what will be the condition over the indoor, he will not going to get a precise information over this region. So this we call it as a coarse resolution model, or a very coarse resolution model, or very so that means this will be very easy to make a simulation in this case. And this is a kind of intermediate resolution. At least I have few points over the India. So now you see I have this one, the last one. I have very huge number of points over this region. So that means I can expect much more information, much more precise information over this region. So usually a weather model will be having the resolution of kilometer scale. Okay, over Indian region, the model what we are using, some of you might have heard about Bharat forecast system, which we are running at a resolution of 6 kilometer. Okay, so that means every 6 kilometer, these latitude longitude points will be mathematically resolved. Okay, and from surface to the top, and from the surface of the ocean towards the bottom of the ocean. That many times we'll be solving that equation, and that much computationally rigorous it will be. Okay, so that is basically the horizontal grid structure in a model. And this again I have explained. Vertically also we have to resolve. So for example, those people living in Mumbai and those who are in Pune, we know that we have a Western Ghat region in Kerala. So there is a Western Ghat near or the western coast of India. So that is a small Ghat section which is having 1.5 kilometer height or something on an average. There are some peaks which is having some 3 kilometer. We have Himalaya also there. Himalaya there is no issue because it's a big mountain. But if you want to incorporate a narrow mountain over the Earth's topography, we need to resolve the vertical resolution also in a very high resolution way. So for example, if I have a mountain like this, and if I have a mountain like this, and if I don't have a vertical resolution, I will not be able to incorporate this mountain feature into my calculations. So at that case, I have to finely chop the bottom level of my model into very fine level. So that means that will increase the vertical resolution of my model as well. So in that case only, I will be able to incorporate this small mountainous ranges, because small mountains also can create a lot of impact. For example, those who are living in Mumbai know that the Mumbai side is receiving more rainfall region. Those who are from Tamil Nadu will not receiving that much rainfall because there is a mountain barrier is there. So there is the wind will not come this side, or the rain shadow region we call it as. So this side, the leeward side of the other side of mountain, or the western coastal side will be receiving high rainfall, and the other side of the mountain will be receiving less rainfall. So if my model is not having enough vertical resolution to solve this mountain, I will not be able to precisely get this kind of information. So vertical resolution also very important. And okay, so now what the main difference between the climate model and this climate model and a weather model is something like that. In a weather model, what we are mainly expecting is something like that. What is going to happen tomorrow? Or what is going to happen day after tomorrow? Or what is going to happen in a week or in a season? But in a climate model, our main interest is something like that. What is going to happen over a long period of time? After 10 years, or after 20 years, or after 50 years, or 100 years back, what was the condition? So these are all the main information what we are expecting from a climate model. In a climate model, so any factors which can try to modify the solar radiation is very important. So that we call it as climate drivers. So most important climate drivers are greenhouse gases and aerosols. The greenhouse gas is well known to all of you. Aerosols are tiny suspended particle which is spread inside the atmosphere. So for example, if industry is emitting a lot of dust particle to the atmosphere. So that can interplay with the incoming solar radiation or shortwave radiation to the atmosphere. And depending upon the properties of that particulate matter suspended in the atmosphere, that can either absorb. If it is absorbing, the atmosphere will be becoming warmer. And if it is reflecting back, that that can significantly cool your atmosphere. So in general, we can say something like that. Aerosol is something trying to cool the atmosphere. I have to say that there are certain aerosol which can warm the atmosphere, for example, black carbon, which can warm the atmosphere. But in general, mostly the aerosol having a cooling property. So that means that they will reflect back the radiation. So that means in generally this aerosol will be cooling, trying to cool the atmosphere. Whereas the greenhouse gas is interacting, this is interacting with the incoming shortwave radiation, and this is interacting with the outgoing long wave radiation. So just keep in mind. So this will be interacting with the long wave radiation and bouncing back to the Earth's surface, and that is simply your greenhouse effect, and that will be trying to warm the atmosphere. So this aerosol is something trying to cool the atmosphere, and the greenhouse gas is something trying to warm the atmosphere. So now if I want to make a climate simulation, I have to take all these values, what are all the aerosol concentration in the atmosphere, and what are all the greenhouse gas concentration in the atmosphere. I have to change all those values in my model, and then I have to make the simulation. In a weather model, that kind of changes will not create any impact. But for example, in a long climate simulation, if I make such changes in the atmosphere, for example, if I am making a simulation from 1750 to 2020, these are all the carbon dioxide concentration, this blue shade, blue line. So my 1750 value is 280, and my 220, the present day value will be something 424. So every year, what was the real value I will be changing in my model. So based on this, my model will make a different estimates. So this is basically interact with the radiation code of my model. So basically greenhouse gas, we mathematically formulate in the model. So that will make a temperature increment in the simulation. So this is the way usually we make simulation. So for example, aerosol, I mentioned something like that, the sulfate aerosol, black carbon aerosol, organic carbon aerosol. These are also we have estimate. So the until from 1850 to present day we have estimates. So this you can see that these kind of sulfate aerosol is increasing in the atmosphere till the present day, and then it is slightly trying to going down. This black carbon is also was increasing in the atmosphere, and now it is in a stable state. I will show the future values also later. This organic carbon was also from 1950 onwards it's increasing. So these are all the factors which is increasing in the atmosphere. You just keep in mind that these are all the aerosol. If I incorporate this value in the model, so if I make an increment in this value, what is going to immediately happen? Solar radiation or shortwave radiation is going back to the space. So naturally that will cool the atmosphere. So if I am increasing this carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, effect is almost ulta, opposite. So that means the greenhouse gas will create warm, or temperature will be warming. So basically you can say something like that. This is a tug of war between this aerosol, something trying to cool the atmosphere or something trying to warm the atmosphere. So now in climate simulation, the main thing is something like that. We can, in a climate model, earlier I mentioned something like if I take the data of Pune and try to make the assessment, the main problem is something like that. I will not be able to make an assessment whether the temperature is warmed due to anthropogenic effect or is it a natural effect. So now I have a climate model and I have these climate drivers or what can make the climate change. So I can design my own experiment. So something like that. In my first slide, I mentioned something like that. There was a line or simulated temperature line which is only having natural variability. Okay, so in such cases, what should I do? I can set up my model only with naturally varying factors. So that means I will be, if there is a volcanic eruption, I will take that data and I will feed that data into my model. Okay, if there is a solar cycle like this we mentioned earlier, that 11-year solar cycle, I will take that data and feed into my model. So this run we can name it as a natural simulation. So that means that should not affect any anthropogenic contribution. So now you just listen this simulation called historic. These are all different names we are following in IPCC simulation. So nothing don't need to bother because this name will change time to time. On various assessment, this name will be changing. But in Funda will be something similar. This is a simulation which is starting from 1860 to 2014 or present day we can run. This is a simulation which is incorporating natural plus anthropogenic factors. So that means all the greenhouse gas changes, all the aerosol changes, all the land use land cover changes, data we will be feeding into the model. So that means if there is an increment in carbon dioxide value, my value will be changing. So I will 1860, my value will be 288, and in 1950, my value will be something around 300. 2000, my value will be something around nearly touching 390. 2026, my value will be something around 424. So that means the increment, what is really happened, I will make change in my model. Okay. So now you have one run with this all condition, natural plus anthropogenic, and I have another run with only natural variability. So just make a simulation. So I took all this data, I feeded this data into my model, and I made a simulation from 1860 to 2014. These two run, just keep in mind, these two run historical simulation and historical natural simulation. One is only with natural variability and one is with natural plus anthropogenic variability. I took the temperature data from the first simulation and I took the temperature data from the second simulation. Sorry. So now I just made global mean temperature. Okay. I just took the global mean temperature. So that means the entire global temperature I have averaged. Over this period, I removed, since I just want to, I am just bothered, what was the change with respect to 1850, comparing to the pre-industrial. So that's why these values become 0. And then I plotted, so this black is again observation. This dotted, this brownish shade, I will explain you what is the shade. Now just focus on this dotted line. Now I am plotting as red line. Okay. This is the temperature changes when coming from that first simulation. So the climate simulation, which is done with the natural plus anthropogenic factors. Okay. So you can see that this was the temperature 0. If you made a simulation with anthropogenic and natural, your temperature is something warmed up to 1.2 degree or nearly 1 degree centigrade. That's what the climate change what we are getting. This green shade you just see, and this dotted line, now I am plotting near the 0 curve. This is the one which is coming from the simulation, which I did only with the natural variability. So that means if there is a volcano, that information is there. Anything apart from anthropogenic contribution is in this run. And so that clearly indicating that this much change is anthropogenically happen. This process, we call it as detection and attribution. So that means using this method, we can clearly say that a change what we can witnessed in the atmosphere or ocean, any parameter you can take. This is temperature. If it is rainfall, it will be different. If it is a wind circulation, it will be different. If it is salinity, it will be different. It is sea level rise, it will be different. So any quantity we can take from different simulation and we can precisely tell that this is happened due to this anthropogenic and natural factors. Now there will be one more question can arise. So here I have multiple components. So that means I have land use land cover changes there. I have aerosol is there. I have greenhouse gas is there. I have volcanic aerosols are there. So now you can make simulation again subdivide. So that means I can make a simulation only with greenhouse gases. So in the simulation, what I will be doing, all other factors which can drive my climate, anything other than greenhouse gases, I will be fixing into 1860 values. For example, simply, if there is a land use land cover changes, I'm not bothered. In this simulation, I will be fixing all those value into my pre-industrial value and I will make my simulation. So what I will be able to getting is something like that. All the changes, what can happen only due to greenhouse gases. That can be methane, that can be carbon dioxide, that can be anything, any water vapor, any quantities of greenhouse gas will be giving a hint what are all the changes precisely going to happen due to this. Now I can make a simulation only with the aerosol. Earlier I mentioned that aerosol is having a cooling impact and greenhouse gas is having a warming impact. So I can make another simulation only by changing the aerosol quantity. So here in this simulation, the carbon dioxide value will be 288 throughout my simulation. I am not going to change that value. So that means the carbon dioxide effect is fixed in the model. So I am running the model only to study the aerosol impact. So if you take temperature from this run and this run, you are going to get a curve something like this. So now you just focus on this red shaded region and red line. So if the atmosphere is having only greenhouse gas, the temperature would have been much, much warmer. Something about it would have been already touched something 1.5 degree or 1.6 degree centigrade. If the atmosphere is only having aerosol, you just see this blue line. Now I am drawing. The temperature would have been much, much cooler. So this is something like that. This is trying to warm your atmosphere and this is trying to cool the atmosphere. But a net effect is something like that. You are not warmed this much, but you are reached somewhere here. So this much warming is offsetted by this much cooling. So that is what is basically happened. And this is the anthropogenically driven climate change. Now you may be thinking, what is the shading? So these are all basically coming from multiple simulation. For example, my institute is having one model integration and America is having another model integration. China is having another integration. European countries, each country is having another integration. So this will create multiple results. In climate model simulation, you know that there can be any mathematical simulation will have slight changes. Okay, so we make intentionally also we make some changes, or due to inherent errors in the model also can create some changes. So for example, if I have 30 or 40 such models, I will be having 30 or 40 such lines, so such temperature lines. Okay, so for a convenience, what we will be doing, we will be taking average of all these lines. So there will be a middle line somewhere here. That middle line is this dotted line, and this shaded region, this red shade or this brown shade or this green shade or this blue shade are basically the spread among the models. So that means simply means that one model said that the temperature would have been something 2 degrees centigrade warmer, or one model, this is inside this, so somewhere here, the temperature would have been something 0.6 or 0.8 or somewhere. So if the so that means multiple different models will be giving a slightly different answer, but that is giving you a confidence as well. So you can say something like that. If only due to greenhouse gas, the temperature would have been somewhere 1.5 degree warmer, it is having a error range of something plus or minus half degree. So that's the information you are going to gain from this. So now the another question is that how we are going to assess. So this is something like that we call it as detection and attribution. This how usually from climate model we are basically assessing how the temperature is changing. Okay. Now, if you want to make the future estimate, we have to depend upon certain scenarios. We call it as scenarios. So there are different scenarios. I will just briefly tell you something like that. Basically, to run a climate model, I want the concentration of carbon dioxide. I want the concentration of methane. I want the basic land use land cover change in future. So how this data will be generated? These data will be generated from socio-economical information. Simply, you know that we project our GDP growth. So if India is growing by, for example, 7%, our people will have more money. So if it is not growing, people will not have that much money. So if we are getting more money, what will happen? Our consumption will increase. People will purchase more. Our purchase capacity will increase. So naturally, what should happen? The factories has to work a lot. So again the emission will come. We may buy new vehicles that may require fossil fuels again. If you are buying EV, that's okay, that's good. But energy again, you have to make in a different way. But if you are buying a petrol car, you have to make you have the fossil fuel you will be using, the carbon dioxide will come. So this economic, and then again, if your population is increasing, the need is also will be more, or the fossil fuel or the transportation cost, everything will increase. So that can amplify the use of for production of carbon dioxide. So basically, this socio-economic information will be translating into the form of carbon dioxide concentration, aerosol in the atmosphere, or the land use land cover changes, what is going to happen in terms of scenarios. So in future, we don't know in which scenario it will move. So we will make something like that. If you go in a moderate way, we will be at this level. If we are going in an aggressive way, we will be ending up in a different way. So that means if you are completely depending on a fossil fuel driven economy, your temperature, your carbon dioxide emission will be much, much higher. So this you see, this we are here at 2020 and this is future 2100. So now we are somewhere here. The carbon dioxide value is something nearly 400. So if you are living with only fossil fuel systems, the carbon dioxide concentration at end of 21st century will be something nearly touching 1,200 ppm. So that means 3 times more than what we are having now. Okay, and if you are going with a moderate emission scenario, the carbon dioxide concentration will be something nearly 600, which is also 50% more than that what we are having now. So what a climate modeler is supposed to do is that I have to take this future value from this curve, and then I will be feeding into my model and I will be making simulation. That's what we basically call scenarios. So since we don't know one answer at what level we will be, so we will make multiple scenarios. So that's what multiple scenarios are coming. So we usually call it as moderate emission scenario, low emission scenario, high emission scenario, like that. So high emission scenario means naturally the carbon dioxide or concentration will be very high. And in low emission scenario, the concentration of these greenhouse gases will be very low. Then we will be taking that information, we will be feeding into the model and they will be making scenario. In future, we can think something like that. The aerosol concentration is going to come down. So basically we know that nowadays many people are buying electrical vehicles. So the emission is cut down drastically and the industrial standard is very, very high now. So that means that also will be cutting down the emission. And we all know that even though if you are using the fossil fuel driven vehicles, the vehicular emission standards are very, very high now. Bharat says 6 and all. It's nothing is emitting from there. So emissions are very, very easily cut down. So that all the things will be cutting down the aerosol components. So that means if you think about sulfate aerosol, which was trying to cool the atmosphere, is trying to decrease in future. The present date is maximum. Okay, these are all its value. It will be reducing since we are improving our standard. So this aerosols impact will be very quick in the atmosphere because along with the rain, all the things will be vanished. You all know that. Those who are living in Delhi know that now everywhere it will be pollution. Okay, so now if a single day, if a rain is happened, everything is washed out. So but carbon dioxide is nothing like that. It cannot be washed out. Okay, so it has to be absorbed by either by plants or at ocean. It has to be synced somewhere. So then only it will be removing from the atmosphere. Even though if you are cutting down all the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, it will persist in the atmosphere. So aerosol, you can think something like that. This was something which was trying to cool the atmosphere, which is we are reducing it, and the one we are trying to warm the atmosphere is increasing in the atmosphere. This will create a situation. This cooling impact is less, the warming impact is more. So that will be something like entirely warming the atmosphere. So now we can just briefly think something like that over the Indian region, what is going to happen. So this is something like basically the way how we design the climate experiment. At least you guys, you people got a glimpse of what is climate model and how we are making the simulation and how we are assessing the future. All those things, I presume that you got a simple glimpse. Now we can just think something like that in next couple of minutes. We will be just seeing what are the changes what we can witness over the Indian region. Okay, so this is something like usually over the Indian region, mostly the rainfall related extremes are happening during the monsoon time. Over the North Indian belt, over the Himalayan region during the pre-monsoon time or the post-monsoon times also we can expect some extremes events. So naturally these are all related with monsoon rainfall. So this is a simple count of frequency of heavy rainfall, which is from 1950 to 59. That means a 10-year period in 1950s and a 10-year period in present day. So you can see that over the Western Ghat region, the numbers are slightly increasing. I will show you that values. But over this region, you can see that if you compare this this over the region which is having this red circle, the frequency of these extreme events are drastically increased. Over this Himalayan regions also you can see that it's increased a lot. So over the Indian terrain, the model estimates are clearly saying that the annual average surface air temperature is also increased a lot. So this is something like that from a simulation. In near future, what is going to happen? Nearly in 2040 to 2060, how much will be the temperature increase over the Indian region? So it's something like you can estimate something like that. A 1.9 degrees centigrade temperature will be warmer than during the 90s with respect to 1970s. So this is not with respect to the pre-industrial period. You can see that in 2050s, the temperature would have been over the Indian region would have been something 2 degree warmer if we are following a moderate emission scenario. And if we are following a high emission scenario, the temperature would have been something 2.6 degrees centigrade if you are following the moderate emission scenario, and if you are following the high emission scenario, the temperature over the Indian region would have been something 4.5 degrees centigrade over the India as a whole, if you are considered. And okay, this I'm just skipping. So now the crucial thing is that the heat wave duration and heat wave days, that is also going to be increasing over the entire region. So basically, these are all the estimate based on the model simulation what I mentioned earlier. So what we do is something like that. We took the temperature data and make some estimate. For example, there are IMD criteria which is defining something like that. If the temperature of a particular place is exceeding 5 degree than the usual temperature or than the preceding day's temperature, and if it is persisting for 3-4 days, IMD will usually declare that as a heat wave condition. So we made such an estimate over the Indian region. You can see that almost over the central Indian region, wherever the yellow and red shades are denoted, the heat wave days and heat wave duration and heat wave frequencies are going to increase in future. And so that means if in a season, that is in a pre-monsoon season, March, April, May, if we are experiencing something 2 or 3 heat waves in a season, that will be becoming something 4 or 5 in 2050, and it will be further increasing in 2100. So that means if we are along with the temperature increase, the mean temperature is also increasing, the heat wave kind of situation is also going to be increasing. So now you people might have noticed that we are getting more rainfall. If you are seeing one of the climate signal from 1950 to 2000, the rainfall was slightly decreasing over the Indian region. But now if you see in last couple of years, the rainfall is slightly increasing over the Indian region. So that is something is connected with that the greenhouse gas increasing. So naturally, simply you can say something like that. If you get more moisture at certain places, you can expect more rainfall. So that is what's simply happening over the Indian region. So this is a simple daily intensity index calculation. So wherever the green is denoted, these are all the places in future the extreme kind of daily rainfall is going to increase. For example, over the Western Ghat region, you can see that this is the top panel is called near future. Let us say something like that. 2050 is what is going to happen if you are following the moderate emission scenario. So that means you are not emitting more, even though if you are not emitting more over entire this region and over this Jammu Kashmir region and over this northeast region, the precipitation is going to increase. But if we are following the high emission scenario, entire over Indian region, everywhere over the Indian region, the extremes are going to increase. So in by end of the 21st century, you can say that something more than 30 or 40%. So that means if we are experiencing 5 such events in a day, it will be almost become 8 or 9 such events you can experience by end of the 21st century. So that kind of situation will emerge in future. So now I will be just mentioning a couple of things also. Something related to tropical cyclone. You may be thinking that these kind of scenarios will be happening only over the Indian region. No, it's over the ocean also can increase. The tropical cyclones, which is which can create a lot of devastating situation over the Indian region, which is happening during the pre-monsoon season and the post-monsoon season. That is basically October to November months, and before the monsoon season, something in April, May, and the initial phase of the June, tropical cyclones can happen over the Indian region. So from the climate model estimates, it's clearly saying that over the Indian region, basically the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal region, the frequency of tropical cyclone is also going to happen. So the main problem is that this tropical cyclone can have a lot of impact over the coastal region. For example, the Odisha, the Mumbai coast, and the Cochin or the coastal regions, sea level can rise. So sea level rise can be happen due to two things: the climate change naturally itself will increase the sea level, warm expansion of the water that will create the melting of the land ice will create sea level rise, And then these kind of devastating cyclones, if it is happening, that can create huge impact on just like storm surges or something like that, that can create. So this can also have a lot of impact over the coastal region. So the nutshell is something like that. In future, the carbon dioxide concentration is going to increase, which is trying to warm the atmosphere. So which will be something like trying to warm the environment, or which is a factor which is increase the temperature, and that will be creating more and more moisture. And there is some other factor which I mentioned, the aerosol, which is trying to be in future that the concentration of aerosol will be decreasing. So that is something earlier it was trying to cool the atmosphere, but that concentration is less now. So that means there is nothing to cool the atmosphere. So that means these two processes, so that means decline in the aerosol plus increase in the greenhouse gas concentration together can increase the temperature. So that can create a lot of impact in the atmosphere. So in terms of increasing the extreme rainfall and increasing the precipitation or extreme kind of precipitation. So the only possibility is something like that. What we can do to overcome all these things is something very simple. So one thing I didn't mention is something that if we completely cut down the carbon dioxide concentration, or that means, or if we completely transform from the fossil fuel driven economy to this green kind of energy, there is huge impact, because you all aware that the production of green energy is not that simple. Okay, so the cost is slightly higher. So if you are strictly implement at a present stage, it can impact our economy. So that means our factories has to spend a lot for their energy bill, or even in the household system also, we have to spend a lot for our energy bill if you are completely going for a completely phase out the fossil fuel driven energy. So since it is having a direct impact on economy, a slight phase down only is possible. So that means we have to adopt the green technology, and but that is in a phased manner. So you may be remembering in Paris Agreement, our Prime Minister is mentioned something like that. By 2040, we will be reducing the fossil fuel driven energy of our energy demand of our country. So that means that's why the government of India is also promoting a lot of green initiative, a lot of subsidies giving for establishing the green solar roof energy creation, and for even buying electric vehicles also there were subsidies. So these kind of initiatives are given in keeping in mind that if we need to keep carbon neutral by 2070 as in our Paris Agreement, and as our Prime Ministers mentioned vision, it has to be something like we have to mention something like we have to completely transform in a phased manner. So that means, so the problem is something like that. If you are completely cut down the carbon dioxide, it will immediately impact your economy. So a gradual phase out or gradual shifting from this fossil fuel economy only is possible. And more than that, it is a kind of a
And please, your mic,
also we may have to develop based on this. Climate model driven information is completely precise, extreme something like that. This extreme kind of this precipitation kind of events, as well as the temperature kind of extremes are increasing in future. So we have to do a lot of mitigation strategies so that we will be able to control these kind of catastrophic influence what we are going to achieve, or what we are going to witness in future, so that only we will be able to minimize its impact, and we will be able to make in a sustainable way. So here I am just stopping my presentation. So it was a lengthy presentation, I know, but at least some points will be having clear in your mind. I will be making some lecture note also based on this. I will be sharing with the organizers. You will be able to take those information from them. In case I know I exceeded my time, so if there is any quick question or something, I will be able to take that questions. Yeah, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Simon sir, for the enlightening session. We will now move to the question answer session. Participants are requested to post your questions in the chat box, or else you can unmute your microphones and ask queries. Participants, please. Sir, there is one question in the chat box.
Okay, let me open it.
What stands for SWR and how the SWR affect the Earth's climate?
Oh, that is shortwave radiation.
Sabin, sir.
SWR usually defined as shortwave radiation. So basically, what is coming from the sun? That is only mean by shortwave radiation. Basically, the entire Earth engine is driven by the shortwave radiation. What are all the incoming from sun? That only transforming into the different forms. In fact, that only deciding how much it has to radiate back also. So in a way, the complete energy what we are receiving from the Earth, you can denote as SWR, shortwave radiation.
Participants, any questions? You can unmute your mic or you may post the queries in the chat box.
Yeah, basically it was a very wide topic, so it would be very difficult to cover in a 1 hour. But at least I hope that you got a glimpse from this. So maybe I have shared these slides with the organizers, and they will be sharing it with you. And I kept a lot of information after these slides, so you can see for those who are having some curiosity. I hope my slide is still visible. So I kept
yes,
some
sir, it's visible.
Yeah, I kept some books which is good for further reading, and there is for climate change assessment. We made a climate change assessment over the Indian region. So all the information is available here. So these are all self-explanatory, and this book is freely downloadable. So you can download this book. And since you are teachers, I kept so you can advise some of your students, those who are having some interest. I kept where are these Earth and Atmosphere and Ocean Science courses are available. And in addition to that, in case any of you wish to do PhD or any other opportunities, if you are looking, these are all the some places. Basically, we are under Ministry of Earth Science. These are all the institutes directly handling the Earth, Atmosphere and Ocean Science courses. And all these places you can do PhD or even job opportunities also will be there. And these are all the other different organizations, ISRO organizations, everywhere this course is needed. And then CSIR institutes is having, then Indian Air Force is needed, Naval Physical Oceanography Laboratory is there at Cochin, and basically in defense, everywhere this course is required. In foreign, there will be a number of opportunities is there, even starting from jet propulsion laboratories of NOVA, NASA, to various ocean laboratories and a lot of universities, a lot of ISERs in India, a lot of IITs in India. Everyone is having these research and job opportunities. So if any of your students are looking for some change, a kind of applied physics or applied maths or applied geology or applied geography field, you can advise them. So I kept this information in the slide. So those who are interested, you can go through this as well.
Thank you, sir. Definitely, we will share to the participants.
Yes. Yeah.
To formally conclude this session, I now invite Mr. Sriraj S., Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. As we conclude this section on climate change and weather extremes, we sincerely thank our guest speaker, Dr. Sabin, Scientist E, Indian Institute of Meteorology, Ministry of Earth Science, Government of India. His section helped us understand climate change, extreme weather events, and the importance of meteorology in forecasting and disaster preparedness. We are truly grateful for his valuable time and insight. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Dear participants, the feedback form is there in the chat box. Participants, please fill the feedback form. Thank you, Sabin, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Have a great day. Good night.
Yeah. Good night. Bye.
Once again, the feedback form is there in the chat box. Participants, please fill the feedback for